we'll remember that in the feudal system, we had the lords and the peasants, right? But in this new industrial world, the people who are actually running things are not the lords, they are the merchants, right? And what do we call these merchants? Because they come from the city, we call them
bourgeoisie.
The bourgeoisie.
Bourgeoisie, exactly. And then think about the people. One of the things you're going to need labor in these factories, and so people who have spent their lives on the fiefdom in the village or whatever, working the fields, right? Because of the agricultural revolution, which we're going to talk about in a couple minutes, are no longer needed. So they're going to emigrate, and they'll go into the cities, which is where the factories are, right? And they'll go to work in the factories. Okay. Now, but when they come to the factories, what do they bring with them? Do they have their own tools? They don't have anything, right? The only thing that they have is their labor, right? So what happens then is that these people who we would call peasants, the peasants at least had their own tools, right? And so we can think of those tools as the means of production, right? So if I'm the peasant that makes sweaters, then my loom is the means of production, right? And if I own the loom, that means whatever surplus I can get from using the loom belongs to me. You got it? But in this situation, we have the bourgeoisie who owns the factory, he owns the means of production, but the worker, who we're going to call, it's a brand new class, it's never existed before, called the proletariat, right? The proletariat will own only their labor. So the initial situation that's created by industrial capitalism is that the bourgeoisie owns the means of production and therefore gets the surplus from production, and the proletariat owns only their labor and they receive a subsistence wage for their labor. Okay, when I say subsistence, I mean just enough. So if it takes a nickel a day to live, you get a nickel. And if you don't go to work, you don't get the nickel and you don't live. That's just the way it is, right? Okay, so it's not like if you were a worker, you could get minimum wage and you could get, cable TV and a car or a bus pass or whatever. None of that stuff. You'd have nothing essentially, right? So, or actually less than nothing sometimes. So the point here is that this ends up being a kind of an it was an extremely exploitating system, right? But for now, and we'll talk again about that in a little while and then on Thursday, but for now, what we want to notice is that in this new manufacturing system, the factory system, we can create a large quantity of medium quality goods at a low price, all right? So remember, in the cottage industry, we created a small quantity of high quality goods at a reasonable price. Here, we create a large quantity because we can make a lot. You can make them 24 hours a day. Medium quality because it's no longer made just for you. It's made in standard sizes, right? So if we were to go to Targets today and buy a shirt, you could either buy small, medium, large, or extra large, right? And depending on, nobody's fits exactly in those sizes, but it's close enough. That's the way we see it, right? But anyway, the point is it's medium quality, and because you make so many of them, and because the laborers are so available, they don't have to pay them anything. So basically you can buy these goods at a very low price. Okay, so now what I want to talk about is this process of proletarianization, right? Okay, so basically I've already described this. Ownership of the means of production shifts to the factory owners, who we call the bourgeoisie. And because they own the means of production, they receive the surplus, right? And then the proletariat, who are going to be coming from the land, from the fiefdoms, essentially. They only own their labor, and so they receive a subsistence wage. So this creates a two-class system, essentially two classes, right, of the people who are well-to-do and the people who are poor, the working poor, right? And that's essentially what these two pictures show you.